Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lightbringers podcast, where it's okay. That was caught on as well. It's okay. It's okay. You're fine. You're fine. You're not on there anymore. Oh, you are now. No, you are now. Just because of the laughing, just in case.
I wasn't doing it on purpose this time.
It wasn't your fault.
So
it wasn't actually your fault. It was actually my fault.
Are our voices on this time?
Yes.
Like for the intro? We can just talk over you while you're doing the intro?
Well, I'm going to do the intro now again.
Okay.
Okay.
With our voices on.
The intro is now. This is just the intro to the show. Welcome, everyone, to Lightbringers episode
We're able to talk.
42. You're talking, but don't talk over me while I'm doing the intro.
Oh, yeah.
I'm English, that's rude. Episode 42, the Lightbringers podcast for Guild Wars 2. That hopefully they realise I'm joking. Or also not. But
so I'm allowed to talk over you then?
No. We're doing the podcast for Guild Wars 2 that we do on the Friday. We've got lots to talk about still, really, because last week there was quite a lot. And I thought, hey, let's just carry on because, hey, why not? That makes sense to me. We have some amazing guests. We're going to do a very quick intro. There is the Kroof, who is hooded today.
Yes, I am.
Do you want to?
It's freezing cold. And I also am cosplaying a ring wraith, but in grey.
It's going to say hooded for your pleasure. Yeah.
Is that a Wayne's World quote?
Oh, I love that.
That's a Wayne's World quote, wasn't it? I love the little smile thing. Oh, you're supposed to be doing an intro, by the way.
I am.
Just letting you know.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
What do you do? Where do you do all things? Tell us.
I do YouTube videos over on my YouTube at Kroof, and I also stream here on Twitch at Kroof, usually playing Guild Wars 2, but also sometimes playing some Final Fantasy 14. And I've been like just waiting for the trailer to drop and existing in between that time period.
Everyone is assuming there's going to be a trailer.
Not yet.
Oh.
We can talk about that.
Did they ever tell us that there was going to be a trailer?
Boots, we're doing the intro. All right? We're doing the intro. You cannot off-road us right now, okay? Give us 5 minutes. All right? 5 minutes. Okay. That's all I want.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Kroof. Please go and follow them. Boots.
Oh, hi.
What do you do? Where do you do it?
I guess now's the time to ask. Wait, did they tell us there was going to be a trailer?
This is not the time. That time can be in 5 minutes.
I don't think they confirmed Boots, but
you
I
are
think
also
a lot of us were
fired.
assuming that.
Okay. So hi, I'm Boots. You could find me on at World of Enders on YouTube. I do videos sometimes. I just started. I mean, we'll see how it goes, but I just started.
You're really good at selling your stuff sometimes. You're just like, I've got this amazing. Well, I don't know. It could suck. It might be alright. Video. Please go and follow Boots' stuff.
I will be
His stuff is
Boots'
hilarious and
publicist.
great.
Okay, go Kroof. Be my publicist.
Good Lord.
Oh, I mean, I need
Right
payment
now.
first before I do any work.
Your payment and
It's
preparation
in the mail.
time.
Don't worry, it's there. It's coming.
Wait, you
It's
just
coming.
sent it? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Boots is sending poutine directly to Kroof payment.
The dog's
right.
gone. That's why the dog's not there. It's a dog pigeon. Dog pigeon?
My little guy.
Puppy is there. Hello, cutie.
Okay, that's the only interruption I'll allow. The dog is.
But yeah, on
interruption.
YouTube, I just started a series. I think I called it Adventure Quest, and I'm gonna try to do all the adventures and get on the top five. I'm gonna say top 500 on every single one of them on the leaderboards. I started with one of them, got really obsessed with it, and and this is not boding well for the rest of the because there's a lot of adventures out there. And if I'm going to just get obsessed with every single one of them until I do well, because I got on the top 500 on the first one, and then I kept going off camera for like hours.
Trying to get top 100.
Yeah, I got to 180. I could
Why didn't you
do
record
better.
it?
I stopped.
Okay.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, it sounds like you need an intervention. Just don't encourage him. Stop
I
it.
do need an intervention.
Don't know who's
Yeah.
encouraging. Who's encouraging you?
You know what, Boots?
Himself.
You follow your dreams and do what brings you joy.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
You want to be
I'm-
talking about
Alternatively, get some ADHD medication. I'm just saying it might help. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do get hyper-focused on things. Anyway, that's me. And continue.
Rookery. Tell us what you do and where you do it. Maybe times as well if you want.
Hello, I am the mysterious and also hooded Rookery. I do stuff. I was gonna keep it cool. I was gonna be like, I live in the shadows and create content, but I literally
Keep it
couldn't
cool.
contain it
That was
anymore.
very, no, totally.
Don't know if
that
I could
would've-
ever
if you
believe you
continued
living in
like
the
that,
shadows.
it would have been cool the whole way through.
I'm Rook and I'm so cool. I'm not, but if you're into that, you can find me on YouTube and on Twitch at Rookery. That's ROOKURI. I'm a big goof. I love games. I do not have small emotions, only big emotions about them, but I love talking about particularly character story, lore, and all of the things that just are so memorable about the games that we love and the experiences that we get to share together while we play them. So you mostly play Final Fantasy XIV Guild Wars 2. I do a good mix of both, and I try to keep the content balanced. We will have some additional fun stuff coming up as well, because Fornax and I are going to be doing a co-hosted lore stream, which we're really excited about. We'll have more info on that for you soon. But if you are not yet following, come say hey, check it out. What's up, Boot? You got a question?
I do have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so lore stream between the two of you. I've seen a lot of both of your videos on lore. In fact, the only lore video I've seen actually of Rook was the 45-minute rundown of the entire story of Guild Wars 2 on one of the announcement streams. Are you gonna do how are you gonna juggle it? Because Fornax takes a little bit more time. Both presenting and delivering the content.
Why? What does this have to do with the podcast right
Is
now?
it gonna be like
what the actual?
you're not. It's not like you're not like slow like WP is.
You
know?
might just have to tune in to find out.
I think maybe
might
wait
just
until the
have to.
flipping
Is
video
it gonna
comes
be?
out, mate.
Is it gonna be like back and forth? Is it gonna be like and so?
It's gonna be me booting you out of this
1,000 years
Discord
ago
call in a minute. That's what it's gonna be.
And then it switches
don't
over to
answer
Rook,
him.
and Rook goes. And
Do
then
I'm just gonna mute him. I'm gonna mute him. I'm gonna mute him in the call in a minute.
Look, it would be hilarious, and now that is giving me ideas because that would be the funniest thing ever. But no, this is completely separate. Actually, the only reason I speed ran those is because ArenaNet specifically said, "Hey, Rook, you have 40 minutes, and we want you to retell the entire story of Guild Wars 2." And I went
really
in
good.
40 minutes. So thank you, ArenaNet. It was an amazing challenge. I legitimately had so much fun with it. But no, these are actually going to be different. I've been doing these for 14, and I really wanted to bring it into Guild Wars 2 as well, because I just started doing it more for streams. But they're going to be zone tour. So we're going to take everybody through a zone. We're going to follow the different areas. We're going to talk about the lore, the events, the history, the context of the map and the world, any unique details about whatever's going on there. And we're going to kind of deep dive into it together. And I'm excited. So it'll be just like a stream, like a chill stream, but we'll share a little bit more about that coming up soon and what zone we've picked and all that kind of stuff. But I'm really excited about it. And for next, thank you for saying you would do it with me.
Pleasure, darling.
I would first like to say that's a fantastic idea. And second of all, Fornax, can you do the thumbs up again?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
The thumb is on the correct side. I did check.
No, yeah. It was just, it looked like you had like powerful forearms.
Well, clearly I do.
Yeah, I think so.
Prime form today. You are just peak performance right now. So good. Yeah, okay, all right. You
What
can
was
find
I
me
doing?
Twitch, YouTube, Rookery,
Intro.
ROOKURI. You can find me on Twitter,
Good
Rookery
Lord.
_ the end.
Okay. 5-minute intro is now longer. I said these people are just going to be the end of me. Mostly Boots. Grant Herald. Tell us what you do and where you do it. Hopefully.
Hey. Hey, I'm Fornax. I'm the Crichton Herald. I make YouTube content for Guild Wars 2. There's a couple of videos on there at the moment that I'd like people to watch, which is a speculation video about the big bad coming up in the next episode of End of Dragons. I can't call it a living world because they are no more, but yeah, the next episode of End of Dragons. I've done a whole speculation video, and I hope that you enjoy that. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Diamond.
Efficient boots. Just get in, get it done, get out.
Get out. Exactly. That's it. No.
Are we going to be talking about that today a little bit, maybe?
Well, getting... Okay.
Talking about
the story.
Getting in and out quickly.
Well, if you looked at the document, you might actually know.
Yeah.
Well,
Getting in and out quickly
maybe
in California, never heard of. You have to go after the lunch hour.
Okay, so we're going to talk about today on the idea is... I actually had a quick question going back to the studio update. I had a question about this release specifically.
Yeah, I have a very easy answer. I looked at the document you put up, and you asked a question.
Okay, I have to ask the question first. This is a podcast where no one knows what I'm going to say other than you. I don't know if you've been on a podcast before, but it feels like you've done this in the past.
This is the first time.
So
Thank
I
you
would
for
like you
to
please shut the fuck up for a second, so I can say the things I need to say, and then you can talk afterwards.
Okay.
Jebro, really fast, can I interject something?
No.
Yes, please.
Yes, you can.
The answer to your question.
No.
Is
God damn it.
yes.
Okay. Do we
Thank
think
you,
the
Rick.
next release... I hate you. Do you think the next release, which is coming this week, will indeed be with maps, with new maps, and the strikes and all the things that they said was going to be after the expansion release? Is it the second quarter that's coming out this week?
No, I
or
feel
do
like
we
that's
think
a
it's
different
just
question.
story? That's the question I asked. That's the first one I asked, actually.
Is that?
Actually, technically on your outline, the very first question, Jebro, is some confusion? Question mark.
Yeah.
That's not the question. That's the heading. That's the title. Oh my god. These people don't know
question mark. It's clearly a
flipping
question.
APA. What? When did you go to school? Like, come on, man. Like,
Where did you go to school that you cannot recognize a question mark?
Seattle University, that is a heading. That is not a question.
Okay.
This is how the sausage is made, kids. This is how the sausage is made.
There is no sausage. It's like there is no spoon either.
Oh,
To answer your
sweetie.
technically
Answer the second question. Kroof, can you help me? Like, please just help me somewhere. I need help.
The most help I ever offer people is just silence.
Oh,
That usually seems to do the trick.
I can't
but your
swear anymore.
question,
I can't swear anymore. They've started to come. I have got like 10 notifications
come?
on YouTube. I messed up already. I've been told off
Really?
for swearing. Yes.
I've never.
Not
had
in the
that
podcast. In my other videos where I'm swearing in PvP.
Well, so you asked if all of the bells and whistles were coming in this release, you said?
Yes.
I mean, I think they confirmed that we are getting a new map and I believe a fractal. I think we're getting a fractal. If not a fractal, we're getting some type of endgame content with a strike mission. One or the other. It's one or the other.
Yeah. So essentially, what it seems as though is that the yearly releases is one first big one with 2 maps and other stuff, and then a second one which is 1 map and other stuff, et cetera, and quarterly updates. It does seem that this next update is like the second release of a yearly update. So
From
our
End of
EOD was that first release.
Yes. I agree
That's
with
right.
that. I mean, I would not be surprised if we get some piece of content. All they really said was, you're going to travel to the Jade Sea and face a new deadly foe, right? So whether that comes in the form of a strike mission or not, we're not 100% sure. I'm also really curious about the meta and other stuff, because they mentioned during this that we'll have this release and then there will be a second half to this later that adds more, expands, adds meta events, boss encounters, etc. So I'm curious just how much we're going to get initially, if it's going to be something similar to Icebird Saga, where we got like part 1 of a map, part 2 of a map, and then it became one enormous meta, or if it's going to be something where we get a map and there's some other kind of story content, additional content, maybe those questies, and then they implement more of a meta later after you've like explored or discovered this foe or whatever it is. I'm not totally sure because they really didn't give us really specific details on this, but we definitely know new map, more story, and that this is going to be free added on to End of Dragons. So I think that even more kind of establishes it, like we were just saying, as being the almost follow-up in this new cadence to what would be moving forward, right? Our first major expansion portion. So I think they're just treating End of Dragons kind of like that as they transition us into this new cycle.
Yeah. End of Dragons, they're basically, I think, saying is the transition between old expansions and new expansions. It's not a mini expansion, it's a 3/4 expansion.
I would like to see it mimic something like Bjorn Marches, where the first half of the map does have a meta, but it's not as grand. So you still have that story content to dive into, but then the next update will have something along the lines of an expansion to that map. And I'm pretty sure they said that they will be expanding this third map. And then they implement something where it's on the level of Drakkar or even more, where it's like a bit more of a cinematic touchstone where it's like, that's the true meta of the map, but it's just a little bit delayed.
Well,
so,
like where Smudgeon has a good thing in chat says, I wouldn't be opposed to the idea that they expand the already existing maps introduced with the expansion. So if there was, what do we think about that? Actually, I like that. I think the end map would be a good one.
Planned ahead on that.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, maybe not for this expansion because the 4 maps do seem pretty set in stone. But I do see it as a possibility for future expansions. Maybe they start doing it where one map is purely story based, where you do have a little bit more flexibility to expand it if they want to, and then the other map is pretty rigid in terms of a meta structure or something along those lines. But I don't think we'll see it this expansion cycle.
No. I mean, they technically could, I suppose. Like they can't do like they did in what's it, Bajora Marches, where they just like reveal another half of the map, but they can possibly initialize the map, like make everybody re-download the map again, and it's underneath, like let's say it's the Jade Sea. Underneath the Jade Sea, there is a new compartment with a bunch of different things. So they can do that, but they can't expand the borders of the map because that's unless. Well, I mean, like why but they would change everything.
Well, I mean, this kind of like seeps into the speculation video that I did about the deeps, which is some old spoilers for Guild Wars 1, I guess, and potential spoilers if it's right for.
Let's go.
So there's in the original game, in the Jade Sea, under the Jade Sea is the Deeps, which is a raid type dungeon, and in that dungeon lives Kanaxai, a demon. And there's a lot of content. You can go there today if you have Guild Wars, the original campaign. I think it's in Prophecies, and you can watch it on YouTube. There's people vanquishing the dungeon there, and we don't know why he's there. We know that he got trapped when the Jade Wind happens, and he's got a lot of loose lore, so that they could very easily build upon his lore. And if you think about the meta map that we have at the moment, Suan's map, there is a liquid component. They could descend the map further down, and then we could reach Kanaxai from that map if they wanted to do that. If they wanted to have some verticality or depth to the map, as it were.
So you think it's Kanaxai then?
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay.
I mean, there's lots of theories. I've got lots of theories.
Yeah.
So
I mean, can we come back to that when we're on that part of the chat? Doesn't that sound good?
I suppose so.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. So next part is going to be that. No, I'm joking. We are gonna. I want to get all your thoughts about the story and stuff. Don't worry, peeps. Okay. So other thoughts in chat as well, please. Questions always welcome, and it does in
questions, comments, and concerns.
Chatters, yes.
Remember, leave a like.
We're not doing.
Leave a good review on Yelp.
Yes. Oh yeah, do that. Absolutely. iTunes, Google Play, all the things.
I was like,
There's loads of stars.
We have a Yelp.
I mean,
GG.
maybe I should get one. Okay, I'm gonna have a look at the document. Okay, was there anything else in the spring roadmap that anyone wanted to talk about as well? It was just kind of me just thinking, was there anything major from there? I had some thoughts. I wanted to kind of, because Kroof had to go, and I always like to hear Kroof's opinions about elite specs and stuff. I feel like we we
started talking about elite
delve
specs.
into
I don't
that
think
a
we
little bit. No, we didn't. That's true. So what I'm gonna do first of all is. Yeah, I'm just going to go into it. Screw it. Let's just go into the story stuff. Why not? And then I'll just ask.
So we are.
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
We're just going to go into that now. I can't be bothered. Let's do that. But it's going to be more specific. So.
Me bringing it up, forget about it. But now.
Yeah.
No, I was going to ask a question, but we're
17 seconds
we're
later.
going to do it later
Okay.
anyway.
Just out of spite.
The questions, yes, actually, that was actually it. I interrupted you to interrupt myself by interrupting you.
Yeah.
It's just a whirlpool of doom. That's
So
what
wait,
I'm calling it.
hold on. Are we circling back to other thoughts about the roadmap later now after we
If
thought
you have
we were
them,
circling back
if
to
you have
story?
if you have other thoughts about the roadmap, go for it. Yes,
Okay.
I'm inviting that first, and then we'll
this.
go on to story. I'm losing it this week, apparently.
It's good. It's all right. I mean, we're all doing the best we can, and this is great.
Amen.
Oh, wait, hold on. And that's all I have to say about the roadmap. No, I actually, sorry, I have to sneeze. Please forgive me.
I've had a busy week. It's been tough. What do you want me to do?
Okay.
Breakdown on stream.
It's all right. We're sending you internet hugs, Jebro. We love you. This is a good
It's
time
not
to
a
laugh.
trailer breakdown stream. It's an IRL breakdown stream.
IRL breakdown
Had a
stream.
rough week too. Yeah.
I work
Oh,
with
and of course I give
25
you-
other clinicians.
Thank you.
Everybody
I'm
gets hugged.
tired as hell. I think we've all.
It's
I'm
been a
done.
week, fam.
Yeah, it
But
really is.
spring roadmap. Now that my sneezes are gone.
Yay.
My only other thought on this is that I've seen a lot of the community reacting really negatively to the
Yeah.
roadmap. And I would encourage everybody to, as always in everything, take a deep breath and just see what happens. Because a lot of people are saying like, wow, they really didn't announce anything. And like, it really seems like there's no game plan for this year. We all know that Guild Wars 2 is not always the most upfront about every detail of their whole year and schedule, right?
Sorry.
So why is everybody giggling?
I have no idea.
I mean,
They're so unprofessional.
Wow, unbelievable.
it's my
This is a
reaction.
professional podcast. Can you both please get it together? But
I'm
I would
available
just
for parties as well.
I would just encourage everybody to, again, just let's see what happens. I mean, if anything, we got more faster than I even thought. We have this upcoming week, this new major hunk of content. We are finally continuing the post End of Dragon story, as opposed to the Living Season 1, which we revisited. Living Season 1 itself was really well done, really enjoyable, delivered a lot of good, solid story and content, and I think overall tied that together, right, while still releasing new strikes, new sort of content like they said they would, adding in those CMs, all that kind of stuff. So I think that we are going to see more information, obviously, in the second half of this year. And whether or not that's the start of a new expansion immediately in the second half of this year, or it's leading us into whatever this next cycle will be, early 2024, we just have to wait and see. But already we're getting a lot of stuff from this. And even if it doesn't seem like, looking at it, you know, we're seeing like 3 raids, 2 strikes, 2 whatever. I think there is a lot of content coming up, and we have stuff coming as soon as next week. So again, I think there's a lot more in store for the second half of this year. And as always, I would just kind of go like, while we all have a lot of thoughts about this new shift, and we talked about them in great detail last podcast. So if you're curious about how we really feel about the new format and all that kind of stuff, that's definitely, check out that last episode that we did. There were hesitations we had. There were things we feel really good about. I think everybody's kind of in that. But as always, we just have to see. We have to see how
It's so weird though, but you're right.
It
Like
plays.
it is about like that's so. It does blow my mind that people are that angry, like that Are they really that bad? Like, I've just not been on mine as much recently. Like, I know I've seen some people getting pissed off, but I'm like, there's a lot in there. They're actually telling us, like, long term.
There's been worse periods of time on Reddit than now.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But, like,
it
it's
wasn't,
still
I didn't get
like,
the sentiment that it was
yeah.
bad, but more so that people are very cautious with this format change, which I think is logical. People, whenever there is change, people are cautious and hesitant. But particularly because of the Icebrood saga and you know, kind of that ties to that quote unquote expansion like content.
Yeah.
And because they are moving away from Living World, we don't really know anything else other than that. So it's more so like we're charting and we're stepping into the unknown a bit.
Exactly.
So
then I have a
comfort
question
is
for you,
good.
Kroof, in particular.
Oh my god, yeah.
Actually, for everybody, technically.
Oh.
I'm sorry. You know what? Just for Kroof. Nobody else answer this question. Kroof answered. Nobody else. Okay.
Hopefully the question will come.
Would you? Oh, you bum.
Wait, what did you check? What was that you just got out? What was that?
Fortnite
a clock.
put her AFK on, but it's also her. This is taking too long. Please get to the point.
Yeah, go.
It is. My question is this. You ready for the question that I'm about to ask? The question that's coming right now.
It's okay, you've already derailed us, like, for the,
Yes, thank
I don't know what number. We need a counter, probably. A derailing
What
counter.
do you think? So, on a scale of 1 to 10, the next release, that's coming the 28th, how important is it for the game in terms of telling us what we will be getting in expansion content? So, like, if we consider, like we said earlier in this show, that this next release is like a quarterly update.
No, I got it.
Yeah, and
You
also
asked this question so slow, I forgot what the start of the question was.
No, I got it. No,
I know. And
Well,
considering
got
the
it?
fact that
Thankfully,
we
it's
have
just for me.
had-
Thankfully, it's just for me. I speak boots.
Right.
I got
Exactly.
it.
Thank you.
Good,
Everybody
good.
else
Can
just
you
gotta
please
calm
translate?
down.
I would say what I'm getting
And-
at.
But before you continue, consider the fact that it has been a year since CD released.
Oh my
and
God.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
So essentially, what he's asking, I believe,
I don't think
is,
they need an explanation. It's pretty straightforward.
is how important is this update going to be for
To
the
show people.
to build trust within the community, to
Yeah,
show that this is an effective change or a path to go down that will produce fruitful content. I think that this is extremely important from a general player base perspective. I would say from a scale of 1 to 10, probably 8. However, me
Only an 8?
personally, I would say like 8, 8.5.
I was thinking
Where, like,
8.4 at least.
Okay, just not
Yeah.
8.5.
Wait, what did you say?
I would say that it is extremely important because it has been so much time, and
Yeah.
yes, we did get Living World Season 1. However, it is not technically entirely new content from a story perspective. It was readjusted and added to, which was fantastic, but it's that newness, that new element that has really been missing from Guild Wars 2 for, I'd say, about a year now, ever
Well, it is a
since
year,
End of Dragons.
literally, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming up on the anniversary. So I'd say it is fairly important.
Isn't
However,
it this week?
yeah, it's going to be next week. Or the anniversary, I think, was this week.
Yeah.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
release of the next episode, the 28th, is the release last year of EOD.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a beautiful,
Perfect timing.
beautiful
Is
alignment.
it?
That-
That's interesting.
That'd be cool. But personally, I am a little bit more forgiving because I understand that this is their first attempt at the change. And whenever someone is starting something new, I like to give a little bit of leeway and say, like, oh, there could still be a couple kinks in the system and things that aren't really flowing as they should or as they wanted. So I'd still say it's very important from the general community's perspective. I mean, Reddit, if this update is not meaty and doesn't deliver something above a Living World episode, at least, I don't think it's going to be a great time on the Reddit. That's what I just predict. But I hope that they would still be like, I understand it's your first time.
Is there a good time on the Reddit though? I mean, let's debate that.
Yeah. And not to say that,
I
not
think we
to
need to
say that the
debate
Reddit, and not to say that the Reddit is the only space where Guild Wars discussion is. It's just that
There's been a lot of
oftentimes
I know,
it
it's
is
a
the
good
biggest
example there.
platform.
There's
Yeah,
been a lot
yeah.
of hype trains on the Reddit, I think.
Yeah, but I think it's okay. It's fine.
I mean, I think it was kind of a tough situation they were put in, right? I don't necessarily think that they could have done this transition differently, minus maybe not blog posting about the new expansion format and instead really like delivering what this new future was going to be through other kind of campaigns.
Different way, like a new way,
But
which is different.
yeah, but I mean, other than that, right? Like living season 1, it straight up had to be put back in this game. Like it had to be.
Oh yeah, it was a priority. If it didn't get done, bad.
Right, yeah, like I honestly think I literally had somebody in my chat this week say I stopped playing Guild Wars 2 because when I got to that point, I was confused why I couldn't play the content that was in the game, and like other people had played it and I just didn't understand what was happening, and so I stopped playing the game. But now I'm coming back because I know I can play through the whole story. So like that's a very real experience, and with all the new players, we needed that to be in there. I mean, I think in a perfect ideal world, like but leading up to the expansion, the team would have had a whole other sub team they were able to hire that just did Living Season 1, and it came out before the expansion released and all this stuff. But as we've just seen with the studio update, they just straight up do not have the size of team to do that. They do not have the size of team to juggle even what they were juggling, let alone to then have like a whole other one that delivered all of Living Season 1 pre-X-Pack and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So the way that they did it, the way that they paced it out, I think was good. But Kroof, I do think that, like you said, it's caused a little bit of this trickier situation because coming off of End of Dragons, I really do think the positivity of the community was high. It was strong. People were like, this was a very good expansion. All things considered, it delivered a lot of stuff. We actually think the strike missions are working really well. And even if, there was still feedback, critique, discussion about certain elements, it was a really solid X-Pack that was delivered, and everybody was like, this feels really good for the future of the game. But then to have a whole year where, like you're saying, we're not pushing forward into that new future, I mean, I think that has maybe made it more trepidatious about this release, let alone then pairing that with the expansion news and the fact that people don't necessarily know if they've been sold on the new format, and while they think it's good overall, and I feel like it's good overall, they are looking ahead to see like what this means for the delivery of content in their game. So all of these things together, I think you're right in that it is more crucial than it would have been if we were getting this like half a year ago or something. But at the same time, I'm just hoping everybody hold on to that goodwill. I mean, just hold on to it. Like, I really think this was something that needed to be done. I really think the studio has been focusing and really pushing ahead and communicating better and really trying to really make sure that, moving ahead, they're able to deliver the best that they can to everyone.
Of course.
And I feel that. I feel that a lot. And I think we just have to hang on to that,
Yeah, that's right. I think we all are hanging on to that, and we just have to see what they deliver to us. But that maintains the fact that we hope that something gets delivered to us, right? Like the release is important. It's important that it is good, and we will see if it's good. And if it's good, we're happy. If it's like Living World Season 2 level, then obviously it's not going to be that great. We're not going to be that happy about it. But I sincerely doubt that that's what's going to happen.
I love it, the language use right now. Fornex, can you give us some of your thoughts, please? I want to get you in.
I'm sorry, I forgot the question. Could you ask again, Boots?
Yes. Okay. So
no. Go off. We were talking about
for you in particular,
expansion.
Fornex,
oh my god.
Specifically for Fornex now, not for Kroof, which was previously, and Rook kind of took the question that was only for. Yeah, exactly. But this is for you now. So the question is this: on a scale of 1 to 10, the scale of 1 to 10, would you say that this upcoming episode, given that it's been a year since EOD released, and also that it is trying to set a footing for everything coming out after it in its new quarterly update kind of situation, would you say on a scale of 1 to 10 that this episode is important?
Oh, holy fucking shirt balls. Yes, it's incredibly important.
There we go.
properly important. I mean, first of all, I can really understand Guild Wars sits in a group of games in a genre which is a bit wobbly at the moment. So I mean, it's not surprising that there's like they've been hurt. The gamers have been like shafted 6 ways from Sunday. We've got loot boxes. We've got like half-assed expansions coming from other games. We've got like double dipping in the monetization. So yeah, I mean we're jittery, and there's genuine cause for that. Genuine, like consumer level, like really there should be some sort of intervention in a lot of these cases, especially for loot boxes and things like that.
In Europe, yeah.
True. Yeah. So on a general theme, that is very much like Rook said, it's been reflected in my comment section of people being like genuinely concerned that it's just going to be a drop in quality and a drop in quantity.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I need to check those out.
A huge amount of people are very happy, but there is a kind of like an underlying trepidation happening. So
I can't see it being a drop in terms of the interim content between expansion launches. I cannot see a logical reasoning behind them consciously deciding to have a drop in not only quality but also quantity, because the patches will be stretched out more. So I expect a bit more of a bigger release and not just an average of 2 or 3 hours of game time within the map and the story. I do expect more. And that's why I was like really keen to point out that this upcoming update should feel like we're getting around, I would hope, 1.5 to quote unquote living world episodes in this patch.
but
Yeah, I wonder about that. Go ahead for next.
It's just got to be said though that if people don't think that they're going to be getting like elite specializations with an expansion or some sort of equivalent, toys will be thrown out of trucks. This is like there is going to be some collective unhappiness, shall we say, on the internet.
I mean,
so there was a posting from ArenaNet. I want to say a month ago. For a job posting, 3 job postings. One was like systems designer, one was something, one was associate combat designer, I think it was. And I was like really considering applying for the associate combat designer role. I was like, I should do this. But then it was like an hourly role, not a it was like, so
it's a contract. They
Yeah.
like the game industry, they take people on a contract before they bring them on full-time.
And I was like, not worth it. But I think the description said something along the lines of developing new. Like I think it's still in their plan to develop new combat systems, not just balancing, but developing new things about the combat system in Guild Wars 2.
They've been doing that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what I mean to say is I think something, maybe not elite specs, but something in that general vein is still being developed.
I remember last we were talking about new classes, and I have a suspicion about a new class. I really do. I have a really random we'll talk about that in elite specs. But like I think one thing is, and this is more on the psychological path as well, I guess, or like a mindful part, is that when a company does so many things and so think about raids as an example, think about dungeons when they got released in the early days and saying we're not going to do raids, we're not going to have mounts, we're not going to have expansions, and then they change their mind and they do them, but they do them well. But then they abandon some of that stuff, or like half of it, or Living World now as well, and they abandon raids. They don't communicate. They then don't communicate about elite specs in their biggest content release. And normally when they don't communicate, it sends unconscious messages to people that thing is the same as the other things. It's a very unconscious thing. So it's that part, that message is, if we don't talk about it, it's done. They didn't do that with the PvP Pro League. It was done. They didn't do that with they did give an announcement in the end. They don't do it with raids. That's probably done. Like, I'm not saying it is, but like, there's this unconscious communication to people that, I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying it's an unconscious communication.
I think because of the fact they're developing going forward, every year we're going to be doing this, and they didn't mention raids at all in their new vision.
Yeah, but they didn't mention, like elite specs either.
Yeah.
But like, it's just, that's the thing. I'm talking about, that's the anger that might be put by part of it. It could be like, it's just the knowing sometimes. And that's all it takes. So just a little snippet or a little like,
So
with
elite specs, I think with elite specs, I think it's one of those things where they haven't quite decided what they want to do.
Yeah.
But with raids, I think it's not the same situation because raids can be used, can be talked about in the same breath as strikes and fractals when talking about content coming up. And they talked about strikes and fractals, but they didn't talk about raids, which means I think
And
raids are
yet,
available.
right before this, we were also unsure if fractals were still going to be a major cornerstone.
But now
and
they
then
talked about it.
Suddenly they started mentioning fractals.
Well,
So, I mean, Boots, no, I am
weird, though.
honestly, I'm there with you. I'm like right on the line between tipping over into I do think raids are done. It's just that I agree with Jeb in the sense, though, that the knowing is a big concern. And I almost feel like that's part of what makes things like this more trepidatious. It makes things like the upcoming content, the stakes we put on it, more trepidatious because people get so concerned where they're like, I don't even know if the thing that I want is ever coming back or ever going to be in the game. And so like with these raids, I mean, I hope we get something equivalent, even if that means that now they have a new vision for fractals, and fractals the CM mode will be something that's much more like a raid wing version of it, or whatever it is. I mean, however they want to evolve it, or if they do decide truly that they aren't going to do this, I truly hope that in some of their upcoming marketing, yes, they say like, we know that raids have been something that we had, but this is our future, this is our vision for PvE and Guild Wars 2. Here's what it is, here's what you can expect, and here's what's going to happen throughout the year,
I feel like we talked about this before, and I feel like my position was back then that they don't want to say anything because they want to keep the option of at some point in the future, who knows, maybe in 3 years, not 2 years, because I think 2 years they're going to have to do it with their model that they predicted and not bring raids back. But in 3 years, maybe if things aren't quite working out the way they thought it was going to work out, they'll be like, oh, surprise.
I just don't like that form of thinking.
No, of course not. Of course not. But
that's good.
I do. I understand it.
You can say for now. You can say for now we're not focusing on something. Or do you not? Or is that counterproductive? Maybe
sometimes the message is clear enough in the lack of action. I mean, we haven't had a new raid in like 4 or 5 years.
I have a question for all of you. All of you, not just Kroof. Everybody can answer it. You're all beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, everybody except for Kroof.
Fornax is going to answer first, though. I'm going to put Fornax on the spot. Fornax is going to answer your question first.
I mean, yeah, great.
Fornax, I have a question for you personally. So,
it's a personal
do you like poutine?
A personal question. Okay, so in the way that they phrased this, talking about the release that's coming up next, right? They talk about you're going to go to Under the Jade Sea, new journey, new foe, etc., etc. And then there's this mention of, and in the second half of the update, we will add map metas, etc., etc. Now, we've talked before, Kroof has mentioned before, that map metas constitute a form of endgame content. So in an endgame content cycle, they would have a place in their release pacing. How would we collectively, but Fornax, you right now, feel about them doing something like this time around, we get the map, and there is whatever map stuff, story stuff, perhaps additional, whatever to explore, etc., etc. But then that map has a raid affiliated with it that drops in place of that first portion of what's coming up next. Again, this isn't the new expansion format. This is this kind of interim additional content. So we get map, raid, no meta on that map. And then in the second half, they introduce a meta to that map. But we got in the cycle like raid, meta, strike, fractal, raid, meta, strike, fractal. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. Yes. So, what do I think that would be a good thing for the game if they had that kind of formulaic, predictable release with raids? Yes. Do I think that they should reintroduce raids? Yes, 100%. Even though I don't consume raid content, it's an MMO thing. I think that what they need to do is take a look at how Final Fantasy XIV has been doing things. They don't reinvent the wheel every 5 minutes. Yes, they've introduced things. Yes, they introduce new types of content. We've got the island things, and there's lots of nice things happening, and they have lots of kind of experimental raids. Eureka, for example, and the strange one with the machine that kills everything. I've forgotten what it's called. Anyway, she knows what I'm talking about. Yes, that's the one. Thank you.
The machine that kills everyone. Alexander.
Yeah. That's correct.
It could also be Omega raids though, but I'm pretty
it could be Omega raids. Oh yeah, yes. Like you're in a time portal type thing, and you've been sucked in there, and you're chasing a small red but pink bird. No, yellow bird. Yellow bird. Yes. Thank you. Okay.
What's happening?
Fordax recaps all of Final Fantasy.
Jesus God, help me.
Sorry, go ahead.
So they have been able to garner and build a consistently large audience of players because you know what you're getting. When a raid comes out, you're going to get... when an expansion comes out, you're going to get story, you're going to get new dungeons, you're going to get new raids, and occasionally they'll throw in a new build. It's not every time, but occasionally they'll throw in a new playable profession, and that's great. So it's consistent, you know what you're getting. And part of the problem with Guild Wars 2 is that it's not that they're experimental. It's that what you need is a core set of things that you always do, that the community can rely on for you to always do. And then throw in your wild cards if you want to, when you're extending the horizon of the game, right? And they're too floopy.
I think they are doing that now with the roadmap, saying that strikes and fractals are going to be the two main consistent forms of content. And I don't see any raids in the near future. However, I do like to think about the possibility of this new format being extremely successful for the studio and them being able to expand their teams, and then potentially a few years down the line, we do get a reintroduction to more classic raiding style content. But I think there needs to be a lot of groundwork before that. I believe Smudgman Chat was talking a lot about the foundations of a game, and one reason why raids might not have been as successful was because it's almost like when you pride yourself on having no structure, it is up to the community to create that, and then there's like derision in the community, and then it just becomes like a very weird place to exist in and to try to play. So I think there needs to be more structure, more importantly, more than consistency. Like consistency, of course, but definitely structure.
Can I just ask again, do we think that with raids, substituting them as a rotation of content would be received well by the community?
Yeah.
So no meta, you get a raid this time. No.
I think there has to. I mean, we of course.
Yeah, that's
say
tough
this,
because there was historically there was a backlash against raids for a very long time.
Yeah, because of the lack of player-friendly systems to get into raiding. Of course, we've seen those, a couple of them be introduced, like the emboldened system. However, that's only one raid once a week. You can't elect to do that for whatever raid you want to do.
Which is weird.
And there's no LFG system. The LFG system that we have isn't as fleshed out as I think it could be. So there's a lot of weird elements.
Okay, this is something I want to talk about actually. Okay,
is this
so like but just to briefly answer Rook's question, I think it could. I think people would be happy with it, but there needs to be a few more pillars to support that system to really, from a development side, I think see a payoff.
Yes. Yeah, I can see that.
I realize that we probably have like an hour-ish left, and I know that people may have other questions, but I realize that we have some lore to discuss, and we also wanted to talk about elite specs, and I had some other questions. So Boots, if you have something, is it quick?
I don't know.
So no.
That is a fair answer. Like,
that is the answer.
I don't know if it's gonna be quick.
We can do it towards the end if you want, but let me know if you want to pop it in our chat, or like you want to say it quick. You can do it now. It's okay.
Sure. I'll go quick. Raids versus strikes versus fractals moving forward. So previously raids were the storyline. the way they got around not everybody being able to get into raids was that the storyline was a side story. It wasn't the commander doing things. It was another group of adventurers doing things. And strikes, Ice Breach Saga is a little different, but now strikes are mainline storyline. You get the strike after you get your storyline, basically in EOD or whatever. Fractals. So Fractals are also outside a mainline storyline. They are stories that ArenaNet has written outside of the timeline of Guild Wars 2 current, straight linear timeline.
Yeah.
So the way I see it is whenever they have a story they want to tell that's outside of the timeline, that's really interesting. Maybe Abaddon again. Maybe, I don't know, something in the future. They could do a fractal. Or a series of fractals if they want to tell a full storyline like the Arc thing. If they want to tell something that's also not mainline storyline, but that's in current time because they want to build a background of lore to release something later, then they would do raids again. But I don't. Theoretically, that's the way it's supposed to be getting done. But I don't think that's actually feasible as a release schedule type of thing, So, yeah, I think it would be nice if raids were just on a schedule rather than. Yeah, go ahead.
No. Please, you finish your thought. You finish your sentence.
It would be nice if raids, strikes, and fractals were all on a schedule rather than when it seems appropriate storyline wise, but it seems like it might just be when it's appropriate storyline wise. But then again, they're saying they're gonna be releasing fractal because strikes are easy. Strikes are just they're doing storyline all the time. They take a boss out of the storyline, they turn into a strike. That's easy. Fractals is different. It's going to be outside the storyline most of the time, unless they just like they did it a couple of times with like the Tower of Nightmares and stuff. They translated a thing into, instead of a strike, they turned it into a fractal. But luckily, fractals, they have a lot more leeway for story. They could go outside of the timeline. They can do whatever they want. But yeah, they said they're going to be doing fractals more often, right? Every 2 episodes, I guess, or every 3 episodes.
And
so I guess they're gonna have to start just like coming up with new storylines for fractals instead of just like story first makes a fractal. It's fractal. Oh, we got to come up with a story for it.
Fractals are also just ideas and themes that they just want to bring up. They're just like wonderful, magical like moments, aren't they? Most of the time, they've said.
It's a Guild Wars 2 equivalent of What If, isn't it? What if
that's what fractals
I really
are.
hope that Oh, sorry.
That's a good description.
No, I think I'm literally about to say what Kroof is about to say. I hope that they stop doing it that way.
Oh,
I hope that they start expanding what fractals are and the role they play. Because when we first got strikes, they were kind of just like, oh yeah, and there's some guys over here. And like some of them related to story and some didn't. And then they shifted with End of Dragons to have them actually be encounters that you encounter in the narrative. I think for the future of the game, they have to shift and expand what fractals are. Now, as we look ahead, and I'll transition us to our next sort of thing in conjunction with this, maybe this will help bridge it. As we look ahead to this next release and its story and content, one of the big things that jumped out to me for next is when you started theorizing about, what is his name? Something shy, not Kenexai. When they started talking about, when you started talking about the history of this, right? This was like a dungeon or a fractal or a raid kind of thing that happened underground, under the Jade Sea. And so to me, I think that the big key things, you all brought this up, I think this is great. So like, if they're going to put raids in as a form of content, we know they probably can't develop them alongside a lot of other stuff because of, again, division of labor. If fractals are going to be the new thing moving forward, great, that works too. But in order to serve the story, in order to develop these things, I think they're going to have to tie them into the narrative. And here already for this next episode, we have some kind of premise. Now, could you take a fractal back and relive the adventure from Guild Wars 1 and learn about who this demon is underneath the Jade Sea? Sure, absolutely. But could they also substitute in something like a raid? Yes. And the big key thing that I think you all talked about is that in order to make it accessible, and Fornax, like you were bringing into this, like Final Fantasy XIV has made this accessible, would be to have a playable version that all players could play. So whether that is something that is more like a public instance or something that is a normal version of the raid that isn't difficult, that people can just get through.
Meta.
Story-wise.
Yeah.
Well, but map meta is its own form of content.
Oh no, but what I'm saying, I just meant like just loads of people just run in there and kill it like it's a raid, but just open it and then they can see the story. That's more what I mean.
Yeah.
Rather than a map.
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
So like, could we see that and then have a version of it that's the raid version? So like if you go in through the portal, you have your team of 10 and you go in and you have CMs. Sure. Now, of course, do we have like any indicator that this is the thing they're going to be doing? No. But I think in that case, them substituting raid content in, much like in 14, when we get a raid patch, there's a normal version and then there's the hard versions that the actual raiders do. But I don't think we saw it previously when 14 first started to do this, they didn't have those types of difficulty. And the community responded very poorly because, like we were all mentioning, there was a whole big release that happened and they couldn't participate if they weren't willing to do end game content and have to gear and do all kinds of stuff, so they couldn't get the story, and they just had like a patch where there wasn't really much for them, and etc. So I think that if Guild Wars 2 recontextualized things, if they reworked it, if they put in some version that was the playable version, but then there was a raid wing version of it that you could do, that would be a way to do it. Or Fractals expanding the context, what they are. Of course, LFG is a big thing that we could do a whole nother podcast on, we've talked about a lot, but I think particularly with the setup of this episode and its history in Guild Wars 1 as far as story goes, this would be like a prime time to have some kind of example of whatever content. There's a lot of ways they can interpret it. I don't know if we'll see any huge overhauls until an expansion, but certainly like the precedence is there for them to get more than just a strike mission out of this setting under the Jade Sea.
I have a lot of questions.
No.
But yeah, to quickly just say, Rook, I think you expounded and expanded upon that in a way that I also feel. I honestly, they should just treat Fractals like dungeons. Like not like Guild Wars 2 dungeons, but a classic idea of dungeons. Because I do, like, those one-off story moments are fun, but I'm so much more interested in playing a Fractal when I feel like it is expanding upon the expansion or living world that I'm in. And
right, and I think the arc storyline, the arc kind of does that, right? Because it...
No.
I think it does. Why do you say no?
Did it have anything to do with Living World Season 3?
Well, not with Living World. I think it had a lot to do with expanding upon the lore of Guild Wars 2 and what the mists are.
But was that current content? I'm saying I like when the Fractals mimic what is happening in the main narrative. So like a Joko Fractal, a Nightmare Fractal, something where it feels like a more classic through line.
You should really play 14. I'm just saying.
I'm fine with that. I just don't think that that's necessary.
I mean, that's
I'm
different.
Fine with them doing that.
But that's just different. That's just opinions. Different horses for different courses.
Yeah, I know. I think
you're
this
just
whole
talking about
podcast is just
now.
opinions.
Right, but well, of course. But like that is just more of a, like, you know, you can disagree with it, just disagree with each other's opinions. There's no.
We are the Fox News of podcasts. This is confirmed right here. Yes.
No.
Fair and balanced all the way.
Don't get me started. There was a new thing today, and I'm just livid. But like, but I'm always livid with those people. Just ignore them.
Look, it's tough. It's tough because I do like the idea of Fractals contributing in some way to the current storyline. That's good. It's a good idea. But at the same time, it's got to adhere to the lore of the Mist themselves, of what Fractals are, right? Like,
darling,
no.
Can you tell me what the Mists are then, and what you think the lore of the Mists is? Because that is a fairly nebulous, undefined thing.
Oh crap!
Yeah,
we need another podcast.
And I would like for it to be developed a little bit more as well. I'm very interested in the Mists, and I want to learn more about it.
The Mists is I don't even know. You know, does anyone know what the Mists truly are?
Well,
Next
fractals
way,
I think what
are
Boots,
reflections
what
of
Boots
Fractals
seems
of
to
the mist is
be.
different. Yeah, that's
Boots is
true.
really viewing fractals as a source of its own lore. I like to view fractals as just a title of a type of dungeon. So like mythic dungeon. I'm viewing it as more of a gameplay system rather than a system to tell the lore of the mists.
That's difficult because then you'd have to change maybe because people's like they assign that thing. They're like fractals. This is like some mystical new different thing where it's not hooked to story. But I agree. I love dungeons in every single MMO I've played. Absolutely love them. New World, ESO, everything. But when it comes to Guild Wars 2 Fractals, I just disengage completely. I have no interest.
Yeah.
I do not know why still. I'm still actually I do know why. I do not like AR. I hate that whole system.
That's definitely a separate issue.
That's
a separate issue. But that's fair.
But yeah, there's just some really convoluted systems in it, and we're gonna go through. We can have a dungeon and instance podcast again. But I really want to get through to some other specifics that I want to ask people because we've not got that much time.
I'll just end it with this with proof.
Yes.
If you told me that going forward, all fractals were just supporting the main storyline and were just like background to new villains that we're getting, I'd be fine with it. But I would be disappointed that we never get more intricacies about the mists and more information about the mists and developing the mist as a fundamental like part of the world.
That's why they do it in an expansion.
Yeah.
They could have expansion.
And it could happen much faster.
It could be its own story arc. Yeah, that could be its own.
And I've actually grown to be more comfortable with the Mist expansion with this format change. I used to not really want it,
and it's shorter
because it's shorter, one shots. I'd be like, I could see it actually closer, coming faster than what I would have wanted originally.
That would be cool, and we'd be good. Yeah. Right, I'm gonna go. We're moving on. I'm sorry.
I have a tiny addendum.
Okay,
it's just that Fornax going. Darling. It's one of the best and most brutal things I've ever witnessed.
Yeah, I got hurt.
I just need like a voice snippet of it so that anytime somebody says something to me that I have that I'm like, actually on, I can just be like
it is a much more harsh actually.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
it's because they're English. It's when you're English. That's the thing, but it's also a Fornax thing specifically.
It's a Bond villain thing. That's my day job. You see, yeah.
It's incredible. You are not wrong, though. In fact, you are very right. And yes, I would love to talk more about this, but let's go on with story stuff.
Okay, so I want to show some of the screenshots because Fornax blew up my DMs with pictures of stuff. So we're going to show some pictures from ArtStation and all that stuff. I'm just going to flick them through. They might not be relevant to what we're talking about.
That was all it was. Honest, I promise. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Nothing. Carry on.
I missed that DM. What's happening? Okay, story. What is coming on Tuesday, or in particular, maybe for this expansion generally? Is it going to all be in camp for 100%? You just 100% think we're just going to be there? There's mention of Rama. There's detective agencies. What are your wants and desires? Like, what do you think? Some theories, like, and this can be a little bit out of the box, like, wild, but a little bit more focused on reality and maybe what we can expect maybe as well. I'm going to go to the Crown Herald, aka Fornax, aka the Destroyer of Souls, which is now your name.
Thank you. What do I want? What do my like daddy I want a pony type of thing?
What are your theories about this? Because you've got a new video which you should definitely go and watch on youtube.com/the Crichton Herald, I believe.
You can even watch my reply to Preach, who's actually playing Guild Wars 2 at the moment and giving a fair old shake. Yeah, and he asked about why Season 1 returned to the game and so I replied to that video to let him know.
Good, that's a good idea.
Oh, I know, clout chasing, I believe it's called. So...
Good, do it.
Is that correct?
Coattails.
Correct. Yes. Thank you.
Or preach chasing? I don't know.
Yeah, preach chasing. Yes. So, what do I want? What do I think is going to happen? I think we're going to get an addition to the Jade Sea. Mm-hmm. I think that it might be Kanaksai. It could be to do with what pushed out all of the aquatic races from the underwater. I think that's definitely a possibility. What I would like to see is Lagos. I think that's one of the best, most underutilized, unlawed races, so that they can really like get their teeth stuck into it and actually like start building the franchise out rather than being retrospective and everything. I like Kanaxai as well because again, it's a character, but he is kind of untethered.
Explain one, I don't remember, and two, like, you know, they were going to be people who just like Guild Wars 2 is the game they play. Like we're talking about Kanaxai, we're talking about this character. Like let's get some history.
Specificity.
We're talking about like what this is because I legitimately have no idea.
So, so demons are from other planar realms. If you think about it in a D&D sense, okay. the realm of Tyria sits on one plane, and there are many planes, and that is technically, I guess, what the mists are.
Like an airport.
Exactly. Yeah, I guess all destinations are possible.
Cool.
And so there are places.
In the mists, even.
Exactly. That's like alternatives. And there are places like planar confluence areas where one realm is closer to the other, and you get a crossing over. And many people in the old lore think that that's why Kanaxai is underneath the Jade Sea. That they had this massive rush of magical energies as the ceremony of Dwayne was corrupted by Shiro Takachi. Who murdered the Emperor. There's a massive detonation. It solidified and petrified the Jade Sea. It destroyed Echoval Forest. It trapped the demon underneath. And yeah, so they think that. But here's the thing about him: there is not a lot of lore about him. If you go to the original Guild Wars, if you play through the story, he is a demonic entity from a different planar realm. He comes with a nightmare horde, which are demons and nightmares and phantasms that are kind of under his thrall. He also during the season, during factions, the Luxon people actually dug down into the Jade and they uncovered his the deeps, his tomb, his lair. And they were corrupted. You think about it like the Whispers of Jormag, that kind of, they were corrupted by him and then they went into his service. So we could be fighting corrupted Luxons. There's also, many people think that the Onai, which is like a random demon that spawns Oni. Is it Oni?
Yeah.
Oh, just O-N-I? Oni, yeah.
Oni. They are actually Luxons who have succumbed to the corruption completely and completely like metamorphosized. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation.
I didn't know that.
And this is why I asked the question. Because this is the reply. Good.
So it's interesting lore. They've got a lot to get their teeth into, and they can expand on it, and they can really go with it.
That's so interesting because assassins from Guild Wars 1, like the entire class, was said that their magic was taken from the Oni.
Mm.
Huh.
Oni are like in Japanese mythology demons, but they're not like they're not demons like we think with like Christian mythology. If that makes sense, right?
Yeah. You mentioned, but didn't we have like an elite spec when we were talking about that? I think we were talking about that, weren't we? Or at some point, I remember that being a thing.
There is one more thing about them that.
Well, can you add also your what you want after that?
Yeah. Okay, so the Oni. Cool. They appeared all over the factions campaign map, all over Acantha, but not in the city. Not in the city, ever in the city. So there's speculation. Was it the fact that there's an ascended emperor whose like spiritual pressure kept them out? Is there something specific about the place? Is it like the reach of Kanaxai didn't...
Country boys.
Yeah, it could be. Country, Jesus Christ. Yeah, they couldn't get too far away from the sheep. But no, is it like proximity from the demon? Sorry, that was a joke from, we had a weird start of the show. We did. But, yeah. What do I...
Weird start to the show every single time.
We did have a weird show. We did. Anyway, but yeah. So
And
that's
what-
interesting.
It is
There's lots of speculation. What I would like is I want them to fulfill the Lovecraftian horror that they promised in the Icebreed Saga that we never got to. We never understood why we saw people enslaved. We never understood why we saw ships drowning and darkness coming up to reach them. And I would like them to
that
fulfill
trailer.
that promise.
I'm looking forward to. I don't know about Canaxi. It might be Canaxi, but I'm looking forward to some sort of eldritch horror down there.
Yeah.
Like something worse than that guy from the Fractals, the Jade, whatever it's called.
Jade
Oh,
Maw.
the Jade Maw.
The Jade Maw, yeah, something that like the Jade Maw serves, for example. That's
Or
what
like
I'm
big
looking
and
forward to.
I mean, we did get really good demon-esque models with Deimos and Samurag, and I've always really enjoyed the concept of doing more like occultish dark magic rather than like the Elder Dragon cycle.
Yeah.
But
Actually,
also,
I'm kind of worried about facing this thing so quickly. Like in my brain, wouldn't it be more interesting if it was an Eldritch Horror down there that's infecting the minds of the aristocracy in Cantha and is like creating havoc in that way and maybe taking over or like turning people crazy up on the surface, and then you know they have to deal with that first and then discover later on that it is the Eldritch Horror doing all this. I feel like
but we might not know what it actually is because they did mention that this episode and the next content is going to be the build up for the future expansions.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's a lot of
interesting.
talk about Canaxi right now, but it might not be that. It could be some other entity, or like maybe the purists are doing something in the shadows and it's building
if
up
this
to
is
that
a
expansion
build-up,
moment.
Could it even just and like I'm gonna Fornax like you're next. Like I want you to answer the question because you haven't gotten to answer the question. But like also just remember, like that's a good point that Cruz said. If they're building up to other expansions through this, then maybe they could even the other expansions don't have to be here. But like just a little thing to pop in there. Fornax, sorry, go for it, and let's let Fornax answer the question as well if we could.
No.
That would be great.
So, what was the question again?
It was like the wants and the desires from the story, but not like wild ponies or anything.
No ponies. So WP put forward an interesting hypothesis about. So we've had two teasers. We've had an image of three figures framed with the kind of the debris and decay of the fallen city, the Imperial City. And we've had and I think I sent them to you actually. And there's an image of kind of like a subterranean chamber with three what look like Kraken.
There we go. I got it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's one.
That's the one. And three kind of like pedestals, platforms. And WP put forward the notion that it's actually derived from the lore playing through the expansion, that there are these immortal ministers who have been like that kind of like immortal oligarchs who have been pulling the strings of Canthan society for a couple of generations, and that now that we have knocked off Minister Lee, their kind of man in the ministry, that they are coming after us. We have unsettled power enough that they are having to kind of step out of the shadows to deal with us because we're taking the empire out of its exclusionary period. They're opening their doors for the world again. They don't want this to happen, and now this is kind of coming to a head. So that there is that possibility.
It's interesting that
well.
we seem to be at a ley line confluence again here.
Yeah.
It does look like that. No?
It is.
Could be a really fascinating kind of way to, give us all new horizons, right? Like the corrupting element, I think definitely needs to be distinctive from
That's the next expansion name. I like that. Sorry. New Horizons.
Corrupting element?
No, the New Horizons. I was just like, I was just like, for like the new, I was just like, I just had a weird image in my head. Sorry to interrupt.
It's good. But the corrupting influence needs to be distinctive and different, I think, from the Void, which we saw corrupting, eating away, robbing people. But the idea, robbing people of their sentience and their kind of free will, the idea that like we do have these kind of undead pseudo-vampiric ministers or all this other stuff at play could be a great way to sort of connect in. And if they want to go that route of the demon that's down here, the creature, the entity that's down here, having some connection to that space between realms and worlds and universes. I mean, we've talked for a long time, like, well, why not go explore the stars? Or why not, Boots wants more in the mists, right?
No, Boots wants space first. Okay.
I know, but
They're synonymous in my brain.
yeah, like if there is something that they want to take us to that's like we've kind of hoped for so far beyond just what we know of Tyria, right? Whether that's doing things with the human gods or different realities or whatever it is, this could be something that opens a lot of doors in that direction. And I agree with the idea that I don't know. They're not going to show all their cards in their hand right now. We'll definitely have miniature encounters and other things along the way. Whether or not there is a big bad will also be interesting, because maybe it's more that they're just trying to set things up with, sure, there's got to be conflict, so we'll have enemies or we'll have hurdles, obstacles you have to overcome, but maybe it's more laying the groundwork for new worlds, new places, new horizons, new thresholds, right? So that we then can be introduced into something like that, as opposed to there being some villain that immediately rears their head and is like, I'm evil, and you're like, oh, this is the next arc, I guess.
Well,
so,
isn't this
very
like
Shadowlands-esque, like, that's the jailer? Who's that?
Well, isn't this interesting that, like, in a way as well, like when you're talking about that, Rick, it just reminds me that they had that 10 years to set up that story. So they're setting up things, maybe it's going to be in a very different way. It's not this massive arc over 10 years of like, in the end, the dragons are kind of going to be gone, and we've got this idea and this mindset, because they had these plans set for so long, and it just makes me think like they're even having to change their whole mentality just around that, like about how these shorter stories in shorter amount of time, so the production, and even though they're thinking about these mini expansions, like they might not be as linked as we think they might be as well. So there's always that potential. I kind of hope it's going to be that way. But like setting up the future in a different way, like, which is what I think you're talking about, like, into going to new regions, and then there's the newness of that area, and then there's like, we're going to go to space. I would actually be up for that. I'm there. We did kind of go to space once, like, in the, what was it, one of the 11 World episodes? I mean, we were kind of in space-ish. Yeah, anyway,
I think it was the Star to guide us, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was cool.
Where the Mist realm. Yeah.
That was wicked, actually.
I mean,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, in law terms, we haven't actually dealt with the sequelae, the consequences of Kraugotoric's destruction of many of the Mist realms, and the tunneling effect that could have. That could give us access to countless realms. They've never as a franchise talked about the realm that the humans came from, because they fled to the world. We could find out maybe what chased them out has found them here, and now with the death of the elder dragons, that power vacuum that is rushing in to fill it. I mean, there's so many possibilities, and they could really just have a lot of fun. And I'm also all for not having to save the world. I think it's all right to have smaller, more
regions,
meaningful. Yeah, just more encapsulated stories. It doesn't have to be like an epic saga every 5 minutes. It's just exhausting,
There is something telling me that this will be a bit more about governance, because we did get a little teaser potentially that Empress Inn is going to Kryta to meet with Queen Jenna. So I would love to see that moment be one of the very first moments in this new story release. And that would also really set up the motif and theme of dealing with the political intricacies and factions outside of it that are trying to regain control, like the ministry. And maybe instead of maybe they do have to use some sort of magical, or they utilize magic in a way to get to where they want to go. And instead of it being a story about stealing leyline magic or eating dragon magic, it's now just a natural part of the world. And this could just be like a ritual site where they draw upon a lot of that magic to do whatever they need to do. And instead of it just being about a story of magic, it's now just a normal element to interact with other more level-headed human-based stories.
Yeah. I like these ideas. They're nice. I mean, I think...
Yeah.
Go on, bitch.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
No.
All right. I think storylines I want to see eventually in Guild Wars 2. Jenna being revealed as Liz, and a lot of
in relation to this expansion. Like, would like it now? Is that
no? That's so I'm saying things that I would like to see. Jenna revealed as Lisa, and Crichton politics in general. Going to space, chasing the human gods into the mist / space. But I think that is not, those two things are definitely not things that we're going to be getting in the next couple of years. I think that those are like long-term goals of mine. And I think that right now they're not concentrating on that kind of thing. I think this is a separate entity. And Jebro, you brought up the fact that like they had 10 years, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. I think this is new territory. I don't think that this is something that they've been planning for 10 years, whatever's happening.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, they haven't.
Yeah, this is this is going to be something else. And I'm looking forward to it. I want to see what they want to tell. Like, hopefully they have something. It's not just like filler. I hope it's something that they want to tell, and we'll see.
We'd love to know more about like that 10 years and when they decided to do the things, so just more like that's the kind of information I'd love to hear more on, honestly. Okay, we've got a little bit of time left. Does anyone have any more story things? I wanted to talk about elite specs quickly before we maybe pop off. Was there anything else that anyone wanted to see specifically? I mean, I think out of anything that I would like to see, probably just in this expansion, just really vaguely, it's just new character models, new creatures, new weapon skins, new areas, biomes that we just don't really normally see in Guild Wars 2 that often. I really do like the idea of the Eldritch horror themes, like, that kind of darker necro kind of like death theme that we see in I really love that, like mixed in with the JC. Like, I would love kind of that kind of theme. I don't know, I'm just kind of up for them doing what they do and just like showing us just this awesome world, but new things. Like, I want to see some new things. I want to see just darker stuff, I guess. But also I would love to see some good old-fashioned quests. That's one of the biggest things. I'm just like, give us some side quests with a exclamation mark or whatever you want to put above their head, and tell miniatures. This is the perfect time to do it. Like, we want to tell more stories in a short amount of time. You could do that's a really good way of doing it.
Speaking of things above heads, I agree with you, and I think that little crown thing that they put above the heads needs to be 3 times bigger.
Is it even above their heads, or is it just on the map?
It is.
But I can't see that.
And the dragons, they start it, it's above the head, it's on the map, but it is so small.
Yeah, you need like a way to really see more of it. I mean, I would love more side quests too. I would also really like to have a moment where we get to have some meaningful character touch bases in a sense, or like do some things with characters that we've been on this journey with for so long. But like, obviously everybody at this point in the cast has kind of reached a chapter in their life, whatever that is, whatever arc they had. And then to like really get a really good strong sense of whatever new characters will hopefully be joining our core ensemble or like journeying with us moving forward. I just would like to really have a good sense of that, what it means, our relationships with them, who they are really distinctively. Rama, we got a good sense of, but like, if they're going to use Yao in the future, which I hope they do, we really need some more, or like whatever it is, like if they want to use any of the entities that are here and getting information about even those dragons that remain, I think like Kunavang and Oreen, their chapter, obviously their big feature focus, I think, is done, but I would like to actually know what they're doing. And maybe Kunavang does want to become an active member of whatever thing, or is going to serve as a counselor to Aurene, or so just to kind of get a sense of that and how the world itself has been impacted by this 10-year arc. Looking at this as a bit of an epilogue into the prologue of something new so that we get a good sense and mix of that. Otherwise, I really do enjoy Cantha. I know some people are probably like, I had this since Guild Wars 1, I don't really care, I want to move on, but I personally really am looking forward to getting to explore more of the layers and depth and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. I hope that with the story moving forward, I love big stakes and I love big hero moments, so I don't want to lose that, right? But I would like to have a strong connection to the world and characters and the way that people just live here or elsewhere or wherever it is, you know, to get more of that sense just in the actual narrative itself. Not just about these big picture things that are happening, but also like the actual world, the places, the regions. You get that from Guild Wars 2. You get that as you explore and you go around. But us actually like having the luxury of having some time to, I don't know, really in depth have a whole portion of story set against New Kaineng, for example, and like really feel like we were there in the city and we know how it works and the people that make it up and the politics. Like we got a little crash course and we got some great memorable scenes and we got some great locations. But I think that even more so, we can really flesh out in the narrative the sense of the world and its people so that it feels more immersively a part of something as opposed to just kind of like our temporary setting for whatever thing we're moving through for whatever major villain story beat, etc. So I think for me, like having that excitement factor is definitely going to be key. You don't want people to feel like, oh, now we're just in the boring post thing and all the stuff is done with the dragon. So we need mystery, we need tension, we need, and you know, the starts of a new epic fight. But the world is also so beautiful and rich and full of so much complexity and the races and the locations and the characters we've met so far. So I just really want to see, I think, a good, strong connection to that and a good basis in it and have that kind of be a good focus as we keep going forward.
But next. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, that picture there that you got on the screen at the moment, that is Destiny's Edge fighting in the Jade Sea.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
If we do not get to explore the sunken palace, the old palace in our exploration of Cantha, I will be truly disappointed. Yeah. Somehow we need to go to that city.
That'd be nice.
I think that would be lovely.
I mean, that might be what's going on.
Yeah, hopefully. That's it.
It could be.
I just remembered something about the fractal discussion that we had. And I think I said as one of my closing things that it would be okay if it was just supporting story for the current thing, but I'd like it to be more about the mists. But I think I lost sight of what I was saying originally about the fractals, is that fractals should be for stories that they want to tell about any time in Tyria. So yeah, it could be supporting the main storyline, and it could be about the mist, but I want them to tell stories freely. Like fractals are like a great place to just tell any story they want about Tyria in general, and so I want them to like just have the freedom there. But anyway, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Elite specs. We're going to be on for about another 20 minutes ish. That will be, and then hopefully the outros that, you know, I mean, that's not going to be my fault if that gets extended. That's on today's people. Wonderful, beautiful, amazing people. So Elite spec, and also we've got a chat vote going on right now. That's for how much will the next expansion cost. This will obviously be next year, I guess, or whenever, you know, I'm speculating next year. $20, $25, $30, $40, or 1,600 gems. Because of course you could maybe buy it from the gem store with gems. Who knows? So, Elite specializations. We had a bit of a chat last week. Like I said, I kind of wanted to get Groove involved in this conversation as well, because Elite specs are kind of one of their things. Let's go and have a look. one question which we talked about earlier, what will happen? Like, is there a fear that we will not get elite specializations, and because at all? And how? And do you know thoughts on that? Do you think we're not going to get them? Do you think we will get them? And maybe when will we get them? And then I'm going to be back in like 1.4 minutes.
Is there a fear that we're not going to elite specializations?
Yes.
Yeah, I think there is a fear, but from some people, there's a fear.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get elite specializations with this next expansion. However, that's not to say that I'm comfortable with them not doing anything to the core professions that we currently have. I think with every expansion, they have to do something in terms of combat, but not just in the mastery system, hopefully in the profession system. When they've tried to do combat expansions through the mastery system, it's really fallen flat, or it has kind of invalidated a lot of gameplay of past zones. I think of like the United Legion way station and how it's influenced break bars and how it will continue to influence their scaling of break bars.
What if the mastery system literally just unlocked new skills for you?
I would not like that. I think it would kind of deteriorate the core idea of Guild Wars 2's deck building system and the importance of profession choice and the uniqueness of profession choice. I am not a proponent of adding any combat abilities through the mastery system. I think the mastery system excels in more of a reputation grind system or unlocking.
So you'd
mounts.
also be against like unlocking a skill through like in Guild Wars 1 where you'd capture skills from bosses in game. You'd be against that as well then.
Capturing, if it is profession specific, I can't see them doing that, but as long as it's profession specific and
well, they could also be masteries where you unlock skills that are profession specific, couldn't they?
Yeah, but they work in a different...
That would be very strange.
It would be strange, but if they want to do it, they could.
That would be very strange. But would it, like, at that point, it's like, why utilize the mastery system to do that? Why not just use the specialization system to do that?
If they do
not
that,
elite specialization, but the specialized, like, core training stuff.
Like the hero, but then you go away from hero points, and then people will be even more confused.
Yeah.
You need one system, don't you? Really?
Oh, yeah.
So
that'd be weird. They've already got those new player experiences. Bad. Sorry.
That's okay. I think there's a lot of ways that they could tackle this, right? I don't think we're going to be losing this because, I mean, like we talked about last podcast, impact. You need impact, you need marketability, you need sellable features. New classes are a huge part of that. ESO themselves ran into problems with this when they had way too long of a time since the last new class came out, and the player base started to drop off because they were really unhappy that they weren't getting that. Even if a lot of the other stuff that was coming out, I think was still fun and engaging and interesting. But the way that they package this, I think, is going to be much more free. And of course, there's room for them to be able to redefine, add new features, add new things to combat, which I'm sure they have their eye on. But I think this opens up the door for a lot of stuff we haven't been able to get before. Because, I mean, think about it. We could get, over the course of an expansion, a new elite spec for... I don't know how many I think would be the best. We'll say 3 classes. We get a new elite spec for 3 classes. They're paced out over, thanks, Kroof. They're paced out over, whatever amount of releases. Or they could do something they've never been able to do before, which is that they give us an entirely new class and then give it elite specializations over the course of whatever release. Because if the big concern is that, well, in the past, we haven't been able to do a new class because then we have to do X amount of elite specs that, for whatever thing, they could instead look at doing something like you're going to get this core class and an elite spec for it or whatever it is, and then expand on that in their cycle.
The wild thing is you're right. And that's very true. They can do that. Unfortunately, I feel like they just won't because of the fact that they made it so now we have 3 elite. They have 3 professions of each armor type, and it's it's all wrapped in a nice tight little package now. The nine professions.
I don't think that matters.
I think for people who
honestly,
say
armor
about
classes
that, it does.
literally matters nothing at all. But
Noise.
I still think it's unlikely.
I agree. Like I said this at the beginning as well. Like new class, I feel like that's something there's more of a chance that they could do now than ever. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that
Especially
statement
with
that there's a higher likelihood.
Visiting new places, like new races, new people, new ways of fighting, new weapons. Like
isn't that what elite specs are supposed to be bringing to the table?
But class is less work.
But when
than
you
this
look at the magnitude of 9 elite specializations, 9 classes versus one class that has one identity, and you can really focus in on that and flesh out one profession mechanic for it, it might alleviate some of that. Like you're juggling so many.
I get what you're saying,
well.
but what they've been able to do with elite specs to change specific classes, 9 different classes each time, has been, quite a lot. They've been able to change them and how they feel and how they play quite a bit.
Couldn't they do that more through the balance, though? The meta, like, changing abilities every so often and also just adjusting things.
I mean, that's minor things. Yeah, it'll change
I mean,
a
they've
lot.
changed minor things, but I think maybe they're going to be introduced. Like, there's a lot of dead.
What I'm trying to say, though, is not
guess,
that. What I'm trying to say is that introducing a new class entirely isn't necessary when elite specs do the same thing.
Yes, but we're talking about profitability and selling games and bums on seats, not the perfect, cured walled garden,
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think it does give them, I think you're right from a perhaps mechanical playability portfolio range of like spreadsheet style-esque breaking down of classes, right? I think, like you're saying, well, if you just keep adding elite specs, you can cover all your bases. You can get every single category filled.
I think we're already there.
Yeah, I mean, you made your spreadsheet. We got to see, right?
Yeah.
But I think that flavor is the next big thing, right? Do you want to, with a new expansion taking you to far distant lands, introduce some new class entirely that's like Star Jumper? Like if we're going to space, Boots, it's like Star Jumper.
You know what? You've sold me. You've sold me. There you go. That's all you needed to say.
Boots is like so easy. Like it's so easy. Like just get Rook to talk about it.
No, she just had to mention space.
Just get Rook to talk it out, and Boots is solved. Like anyone else, that's it. It don't matter.
I think that introducing new classes does give an opportunity to create new trees of theming, thematic style, connections, and player connections to the world, its ongoing lore, expansion, cultures, combat styles, magic, technologies, right? So that they could do something like that. They could also introduce a whole new class. This might be really controversial, that uses new weapons that no other classes get to use. So if they don't want to then have to add a bunch of weapons to all the other classes, and then they could add those weapons maybe over time to other elite specs or in future elite specs to other classes. I mean, I think this just gives them much more mobility to both expressively and thematically explore the world, but also break this up. Of course, it does mean that players are just going to have to be more patient in regards to however they handle this. I think there is a really good chance that you might have an expansion where your favorite core class does not get a new sparkle.
Well, that's going to be the next probably 2 expansions. Yeah.
So
we talked about the uncertainty without them saying that we are getting elite specializations, but they did mention that this will give them more of an opportunity to change the core tenets of Guild Wars 2, and in that list was the profession category. And I think they use professions as just like kind of a catch-all term, meaning that talking about this right now, we could see a new profession, or we could see a system where we do get elite specializations, perhaps at a reduced frequency, like 3 in expansion, 2 in expansion, or we just see like straight up new weapons added or given to certain professions. They flesh out the missing utility skills and, elite skills and all that stuff. And so I don't think they've totally forgotten about the idea. I think they are very much aware that this is a huge element to selling a game, is how you play it. It's more so just about like a general, this gives us an opportunity to play around with the profession system, and we'll just see how that happens in the coming expansions.
What about sub-professions? So in the
That's kind of
original
elite
game,
specs.
they had all sorts of hybrids where you could be a warrior, elementalist, a monk, spear marshal. There was a lot. What do you? I mean, this is not my ballpark. This is.
Isn't that what
I'm
Kroof
a
just
spectator
said?
here.
Kroof just said something.
Is it? Well, I don't
Well, I
think
mean,
it
it's
was
like
that.
kind of like elite specializations where you're tapping into like another realm of class. Like necromancer turning into a reaper
Spectre,
is kind
I
of
guess.
like
I
turning
see,
into
I
a
see.
Like a
warrior
mini
where
subclass. Yeah.
it takes from another profession. Like scourge takes from like a healer or some type of support.
Sorry,
But yeah, I
I
think-
didn't understand.
Oh no, it's okay, it's okay.
I think this is something we talked about last week. I think, I think that's also kind of on the table, right? Like being able to multi-class, take an elite, not an elite spec, but a core spec from a different class. We were talking about that because I
That
think
would be
Brazil talked
weird.
about that previously in a tweet. It was a great idea, but it can
think
get
it
very
is a
complicated
great
to balance that
idea.
kind of thing. It can be very complicated to balance that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's already complicated. Why just go wild? Okay.
Just let it
Which
They
is
just do whatever
why
they
I
want,
don't
yeah.
want them to expand the combat through the mastery system, because the mastery system is an account-bound entity, and so once you get those facets,
Sure.
it then has repercussions with everything that they have brought in the past and everything they will bring in the future. So just
Right. But
to
yeah.
further elaborate on that point about the mastery system.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there's a lot they could do now. I think there's so many different ideas of how they could expand the combat system going forward with this new way of delivering content. And I think elite specs is not the first thing that they're going to have to think about, because I think delivering elite specs 3 at a time, let's say, per expansion is unlikely, just because it'll make other people unhappy when their particular elite spec isn't included in an expansion. What
We
happened?
lost Jebro.
Oh no.
We lost Jebro. Come back.
Oh,
Uh-oh. What's happening?
I'm
Where'd
here
you go?
still. Can you hear me?
yes,
Yeah?
we can still hear you.
Yeah, something happened on my PC. Keep going. Everything's
Keep
going.
going.
You're all still
We
there.
can hear you. Yeah.
So
you're
yeah,
good.
whether I don't think it's probably gonna change up a little bit for the next little while from elite specs to something else. I like the idea of playing with skills, new skills that you might not normally get. I don't know. We talked about an elite arcane skill, filling out all the missing skills in the game, balancing things properly, balancing novel idea of balancing things properly.
Ooh, that
And
is
then.
novel.
I think it's possible they add a new class. I just don't think it's one of the things that is most likely to happen. Yeah, there's a lot of options coming up, and I'm okay with them not introducing elite specs every expansion. I do think that there needs to be shakeups every expansion, though.
So if they don't add elite specializations every expansion, what would be the combat change to
That's what I
sell
was
that
just talking
expansion?
about. I was
Weapons.
saying
Would
new
it just
skills,
adding new skills?
new
skills,
skills, possibly
New weapons.
new weapons, possibly like some kind of multi-classing system. I like the idea of a spec line that's attainable for every profession, like an elite spec line that's attainable for every profession. That would be probably better for some than others.
I'm distracted, so Boost is let
I think
wild
that would
right now.
I think that would actually be more difficult to balance than anything in the game.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That's true. I agree with you. I think it would be egregious. But now hear me out on this.
Egregious.
A
I
new-
like that word.
I like egregious.
In that way. Just for this.
I've just had the thought of a new class, Cavalier, where you get some kind of smaller mount that you get through a mastery line and can upgrade, but then you also have to ride it in battle for a unique set of abilities. And you can use it even in raids and places you're not usually
There is
allowed
the
to
pony.
pull out
Yes.
your mount.
There's
Like
the
a
bunny.
pony.
We're gonna be.
My favorite
No notes.
class.
This is a good. This is
No,
amazing.
no, no,
You got
not
the
yet.
Cavalier.
No, we
My
can't
class
do this
idea
now.
Would be like
We can't do this now.
a ley line mage. I think that'd be really cool.
When are we can do that, but the next podcast is actually going to be us playing through the new story. I've decided we're going to play through the new story
yeah.
together, and even
It'll
if
be
it's going to
out.
be short
Also, where's the
snippets.
trailer? Where's the trailer? No one's talked about it. I'm gonna bring it up. I'm gonna be the devil. Okay.
You brought it up at the beginning of the show.
Okay, well, I'll be the devil again. I'll bring it up a second time, okay?
All right, wait.
Where
Have
is
we
that
stopped with
trailer?
elite specializations? Are we good? I mean, there's always that's always gonna float back up.
I had one thing to add.
Go on, yes, please.
In terms of turning the paradigm on its head, what about encounters where you have to go in as a fixed build? So you select the build that you want to go in, you go in as a fixed build. That means that they can control the parameters more and give a more dynamic, more balanced experience.
For PvP, I have thought that for so long.
Or PvP or PvE. And then you have a new matching system whereby you go, I want to play this one, and then you're in it. You arrive and the build is all in there, and you just hit the boss in the face.
So in PvP, they used to have I think you can still do this. In PvP, they used to have builds that you could select. So there were builds like there was a build.
Yeah. They just didn't update
and you just filled it out the thing. Yeah, I don't know what happened to that. So they had the meta at the time, and then they had like two other things, like a condition build and a power build. So you could select through these things. And they just
didn't keep track of what the meta was, so they didn't update it.
Yeah, like it never changed, right? Like it was just left again.
It's more so just like we put in things that will hopefully be general enough, so at any point, but the balance is so volatile anyways.
Yeah.
But they changed it, like it was meta. They had meta builds.
That's why for PvP, I think it would probably be smart if they did constrict.
I would actually love that. I would actually love that.
I would not like this.
No, option.
You wouldn't like
option.
it, but for the health of the game.
No.
In one mode, it would give people more understanding and nuance. The nuance doesn't have to be there so much to the point where everyone is just confused and utter oblivion, and they're just like, what is happening? If you learn, it's like Final Fantasy XIV's PvP is like a really good way of doing it, because they take down the amount of skills, and they're like, you have a heal, you have this damage ability, you have this telegraph.
I think that I think that the initiative to have meta builds available to just like copy paste from an NPC in game for new players and people who don't know necessarily what they're doing starting off is great for both PvP, PvE, World vs. World, everything. I just don't think forcing you to be one of those things is necessarily a good thing for the game, if you know what you're doing.
Hardly anyone plays PvP nowadays anyway. Who cares, really? I mean, it's not going to do anything to it, is it? It's not going to make it worse. You can have a worse experience in there now if you try it. It's just, it doesn't matter. I'm just at that point where I'm just like, can it get worse?
Encouraging it is great. I think like saying, oh, look, there's a big arrow pointing to this NPC. Hey, look, check out this NPC if you want to get into raids. This is a really cool NPC to talk to. Oh my God, this NPC knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work to update it like every other month or so.
I really like that idea though. I do. Like it just, yeah.
My thought was it's Formula 1 versus Formula 2. In motor racing, Formula 1 is U-boots. It's a marriage between the build and the ability, and you put the two together and you go. So you have Formula. It's like motor racing, but Formula 2, everyone has the same car, everyone has the same engineering, and then it's all about the player. The driver.
Skill. Yeah.
So it's both are valid, right? I think both are valid competitions.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
As its own mode. Yeah.
This is its own mode, I like that. Especially if it was in Stronghold or something, because there's more of it feels like there could be more of a role thing. I really like Stronghold can be just random fun sometimes. Yeah, I like it as well, actually, honestly. I think it could be adjusted, but you never know. They're not going to do that.
But where is that trailer?
All right, quick.
I need to briefly mention my only moment of negativity during this whole roadmap has been the trailer point, because when you are making the decision to change something so drastic and you have this community
you missed our talk about this last week as well, which I'm sad about.
When you have that community caution and you don't release a trailer
I agree,
prior to the update to showcase what you're getting and just at least show off some snippets. Of course, we're not going to be playing the entire thing until it releases, but you have to have a little bit of a sense of what you're going into so that you're not completely blindsided with your own expectation. So I think my only point of criticism is that we did not receive a trailer this week, and to me that's a little wild.
And they need to do it sooner. Yeah, they need to do it sooner than like the day before or the day of.
Or even the week before. I mean, I know we just had the change, but like drop it at least then. Like
you need to give it time to percolate, time for people to pass it on, to share it, to get excited about it, to build anticipation with it. Yeah.
The day this dropped, they should have done a live stream. They should have had the studio heads there. They should have talked to the community. They should have gone through it all, and then they could have had a big, nice cock tease for the upcoming expansion.
Thank you.
Episode.
I was waiting for that.
It would have been wonderful. There's auto stuff that you can bleep that out. It's fine.
You said cocktail, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
Cocktail,
Yes.
I don't care about that. That word is probably
Cocktail.
fine because there's like cocktail, like, you know, cockerel.
They'll never decipher the accent. It's fine.
Cockatoo.
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
Cock monster is my favorite insult to my husband.
Okay, that's
actually.
different.
God.
Cock monster. Sorry.
Unrelated note, I learned that capybaras are the friendliest creatures.
I miss England.
They're great. They're very good.
Wait,
I mean, it's something that I think they need to do, right? I personally think that this is so tough. You have to control and set the precedent for the tone of your community. This goes for us being streamers. This goes for us, for anybody on social media. This goes, of course, there will always be people that don't adopt that. But one of the biggest things that I've learned, whether it is hosting, shoutcasting, streaming, anything, is that your initial structuring and framing of what you're doing, the way that you reinforce that, the way that you direct the narrative that then is going to be spread throughout the whole community is crucial for big announcements like this. They are very careful with their blog posts, I think, because they can, like we've talked about in the past, control exactly what information is being disseminated, exactly how it's being disseminated, and then leave it like that without other things for people to read into, pick apart. I mean, of course, we do it anyway, but like, to me, it's something where if they were going to be switching to this, which they are, I think they wanted to give us a heads up. And I have faith that as we get to whatever the release of this first genuine expansion will be, that they will try to do events and try to do things for it. But again, if you're going to do this big reveal at the start of the year about your game plan for the future of the game, I really think the best possible way that you can frame it and that you can steer the precedent for the reception of it is just like you said, Fornax, to have done an event that brings a level of hype, a level of polished professionalism, excitement, immersiveness that's gripping in a sense so people get pumped about it.
It doesn't have to be anything big. It could be darkness and you just see a figure there and like Guild Wars 2 and the name of it. Like, it doesn't have to be.
No, you gotta show like Fractal, new map.
I mean, I would like that, but like
you have to have these taglines for people to get. I mean, from a story perspective, having that sense of mystery is good, but to market it and to like actually have the confidence to say this is what you're getting, not just in a blog post that probably people don't read outside of the OS2 community, that's so important.
Is it?
And I mean, I think they can do that leading up to the expansion drop, right? Yeah. You can have something like the Guild Wars 2 logo, a thing, the future of Guild Wars 2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then like get more into the actual nitty gritty stuff as you are gearing for the expansion delivery. But Kroof, I agree with you. And in this particular case as well, because this is a huge, massive shift, and because they did talk about some of the things that they are foundationally looking at in the blog post, it would have been nice to see that be delivered. You know what I mean? Like delivered.
I mean, we get trailers for Living World. And I know this isn't Living World, but it's still a content patch, and most MMOs that I know of, you get a trailer with the content patch.
But you're right, like it's not just even that, it's just the change of everything. Like it feels like it should be like they're announcing this essentially to the world that our game has changed in the most significant way since we released an expansion. Like that is literally how important it is, because the first time they released an expansion, they didn't even know they were going to release the expansion. Like no one knew Guild Wars 2 was going to do that.
Show, don't tell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But also, I have a solution. Let's just make a fan trailer by next Tuesday.
With images of fractals and strike missions that we don't have.
Look, we can go to places that look Jade.
Just do green screens.
And then I'll be on the green screen and I'll like cosplay in really bad cosplay with trash bags.
Oh,
I'll
that's
be
what
like,
we could have done. I mean, that's your next short. That's your short. You can make the trailer.
Yeah.
Make the trailer, Kroof. Right, you've got the weekend. You've got the weekend.
I've got it. We can like have a snippet of whatever the dialogue about there are things stirring in the palace. Like if you complete the jump puzzle in Old Kaineng, like there are things stirring in the palace, blah blah blah. And then we can like
blah, blah,
get
blah.
footage of like the old Kaineng ruins and stuff. And then we can get footage of somebody in first person camera going like into the little underground tunnel with the water stuff and get like a cool shot of the like dramatic water and be like, I don't know, one of us can just do a character voice of
Can we
any
all
generic
do
NPC.
voiceovers?
Yes, and it's just like, beneath, we thought the threat was over, but beneath the Jade Sea, something else is stirring. And then like,
Wow.
yeah.
Wait, someone
I'm
mentioned the
just saying,
wedding. What the hell's happening with the
And then
wedding?
it's just an image of
That's
Fornax
right.
like revealed from the shadows, sitting in the chair, and it's like, I've arrived.
no,
would work.
reveals Fornax. Fornax goes, hello, darling.
Yes. Yes.
And like cracks open the lore book.
Mhm. Oh,
I'm
look at that
just saying.
forearm.
Oh, and you can Photoshop like a
that
staff in the
guy.
arm. So when you wave it, you're like,
Oh man.
magic.
My God.
I'm just saying, I think that would be amazing. I think we could pull it off. And I think it would
Yeah.
be hype. I think we can make it hype. I mean, I've seen
It's okay.
all of your video editing.
ANF's
I
just
can do
outsourcing the
voices.
trailer. It's fine. We got it. We got you all. We're the back. We got it. You're good.
You don't need the trailer because it was
Oh
just
my gosh.
described.
No, I don't
Very
need the trailer
well.
anymore because I'm gonna make it. So
Okay, good.
I do think it's a good point though. Like, you would totally. I think we were all totally hyped for the marriage announcement that they were going to get married.
Yeah,
Do we
are they
think
gonna
that they're
do
going to
it?
get married this before we jump into the next expansion?
They've been engaged for a year.
That's not
Well,
that long.
I mean, it takes. That's about normal. You know, it takes
People
about that
get
long
engaged
to
for
plan a wedding.
for like years.
I've been engaged for 20 years.
A year is like an average, I'd say.
I feel like you're revealing quite a lot about yourself, Jeb.
I was
really
engaged.
do.
Well, I had to be. I was engaged for like 3 years, but only because like I had to be, because of law. But like it was technically that's not true, but kind of is. Like it is.
Keep talking, just dig away, dig.
Hey.
Yeah.
I had to get married as soon as I came to America. Like that was it. Like it was like come to America, you stay, you have to get married in the next 2 or 3 months, and I was like, cool.
I mean,
ready.
I guess
Gonna be
they
fine.
can
Ruining
take
with
as
all the
long as
romance
they
here,
want.
dude.
Now I'm divorced. No, hey,
Azure
hey,
Avocado
whoa,
has been engaged for 6
I've got it.
years.
Crichton Herald. I listen to this,
Impressive.
okay? I proposed at Stonehenge.
Thought you were gonna say Stonewall.
I mean,
I got
two an American as well. So like,
I got engaged on the Champs Elysees.
I get engaged.
So there.
I
Fuck
was
off.
pretty close to it, actually. I got engaged on the North Bridge in Paris.
Oh,
Wow,
got
look at you all.
I got engaged to in the bar
Nice, this
bathroom while I was kneeling down
Wow.
and
I
just
got engaged.
shit faced.
Got engaged at Christmas in our family's house with all of our family around
that's
us.
special.
Nobody was killed.
No Paris.
Was it the
there
Champs?
wasn't Stonehenge. It's just our house.
Hey, Fordex just criticized me for non-romanticism. I wasn't calling anyone else that, okay? I just said. And I'm divorced now, so I can do it again. So I can one-up you. So that's what I'm going to do, okay, Fordex? I just need to
Anyways,
find someone to marry me.
This is my second
Okay.
marriage. Just putting that out there. Yes.
We don't know what to expect.
I think.
Oh my God, yes, so much,
Yeah.
so much.
Wait, what happened? What?
I think it's America's called a divorcee or something like that.
Divorcee, yes.
It's pronounced
Yes.
divorce.
Divorce.
Ah, thank you.
Divorce. Divorce.
Oh, my husband's gonna love listening to this episode. It's awesome. Carry on.
Divorce. The new.
Libertino.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Lightbringers podcast, episode 22. We are going to finish it there because you lot have to go. You told me you have to go, and you continuing things. I'm sitting there. I'm just like, I'm pretty sure they had to go, but you know, it's okay.
What was the consensus on how much people think the
$25?
$25.
People think 25.
Good to me.
So
Sounds about right.
For context, the expansion is $30 for End of Dragons. It's also $30 for the past 2 expansions that you still pay for, and you don't have to pay for half ones because that comes with the game.
25% more than a mount skin.
Yeah, which is kind of the way it is, right? I mean, $25.
That's a good deal. That's a good deal, everybody.
Yeah.
$25, snatch
Pretty
that.
sweet. So
And I wouldn't mind. I hope they do
Snatch.
like collector edition or whatever, and you can get pay more, get some cool stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
25, 50,
a
100.
physical?
Yeah.
the model like you had
edition
Aurene
or
before.
digital?
Yeah, absolutely.
Digital probably.
Digital, but with more figurines available.
I want the figurine. I want next. I would
Yeah.
get one next time. I'm kind of like Aurene wasn't like the main, like it wasn't something that I was interested in, but I was like, oh, I'm glad it's there for people. Don't give me that. Okay. I'm glad you had that moment, Rookery.
You say that about her. She is perfect.
Okay, I'm sorry. Why am I constipated?
Maybe
Actually,
do you
that's
have
a good
Whitlock?
question.
No.
Oh yeah, do you have
Why
do
is
you
that a
like
good
Whitlock?
question?
Would you like Whitlock? I could send him to you. He's living in my garden. He's like exiled from the house.
Is he a gnome?
Well, I mean, he's
Honestly.
like his flaming sword is protecting my shrubbery. Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Good. Maybe.
Do you
Okay.
want Aurene to be involved in the storyline going forward?
No.
Yes. Shh.
No, just get rid of her. I mean, I like her as well, but
Just
Well,
let her go to sleep.
Parental
her
relationships
sleep.
are meant to lead to separation. I'm just putting that out there, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I think that
She's
they'll
gonna go to
probably
Florida.
have her do her thing. I mean, I hope though that they don't. I truly hope they don't just drop it. Like, if we really were her champion, to me, like that should be something that literally changed us. I mean, like we see what
changed
happens when
you,
Bram's
at
a
least.
champion. We see it did change me
Definitely
emotionally,
changed you.
spiritually, physically, magically.
All
But
about
I
his
mean,
lactation. Yeah, just saying.
yeah, I.
Wait, what?
I
Did you
hope,
say lactation?
Mommy milkies.
no, she said. Snack. Snack.
Am I lactating?
She said snack nation.
She's gone.
Lamp nation.
why
I
do you
can't find
do
a way to
this?
try and cover
I'm
that
trying
up.
to end the fucking podcast and you just keep talking and then more things happen. I just want to go. I just want to leave.
That's
all
all.
I
All right,
wanna
Jebro,
do.
let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
You're the one who said you needed to go. I don't mind staying here.
Ah,
I can't even think right now. All I'm
That was
thinking
fighting
about
for
is
gay rights.
lactation.
People
I'm
were
just
killed.
like,
Nobody was
what
killed.
is happening, dude? Oh, why did I start this podcast?
Oh, that's unfortunate.
It's a good question, Jebro. You think about that until the next time on the Lightbringers.
Oh.
There, did I do
Yeah.
it? Are we done?
Oh, we got to
I've
do an
enjoyed
my last
outro.
podcast, guys. I've really enjoyed it. I'll see you again.
Oh, we got to do an outro, man. Oh, okay. Oh god, I'm
All
okay.
right, everybody at the same time.
Oh,
we'll do the
dear.
outro together. Okay, on the count of
Yes.
No, because
three.
everyone has to
two,
say. Everyone, this
one.
is one of the biggest opportunities for people to follow your
Thank
channel
Thank
because if you.
everyone,
Oh,
everyone
God.
for joining us
On the
on
podcast.
Lightbringers
Podcast.
I
I
have
have
been.
I've been
sailing around the world.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Who
Sorry.
is lactating? What? Sorry.
I'm just excited to see all the viewer numbers drop.
No, should I tell you legitimately, when I look at the stats for the YouTube video, the highest points that people watch are the intro, and then it kind of starts to fall off, and then the outro.
Why?
because they're just hilarious. Because stupid shit happens all the time in those 2 periods of time. People love them. Like, dude, they message
like
me and they say,
out and you're
"I
like,
love
well,
it when you're
I've
not just
given everything."
Yeah.
So
it.
really, when you keep on saying that I've been ruining every podcast, in reality,
you've been the moment.
You've been some of the moment. Yeah.
some, yeah.
Yeah. Well, everyone else has been part of the moment at different
I
times.
mean, lactation is pretty good.
It's pretty juicy.
Rookery. It's pretty juicy.
Really hate that.
Do you hate it more or less than when you said you have Jebro said guesticles?
Gesticles is fine.
I hate Kroof saying that lactation is really juicy more than I hate Jebro saying the word gesticles. I mean, they're both bad.
I've had like a workout.
What about UHM? Is that some sort of pasteurization happening in the chat?
Oh, the chat's gone. They're not here anymore. They're just like, oh yeah. Okay.
Hey, I'm Rook.
Yeah.
This is one thing that genuinely I can say to all of you. If you come to my channel, I have never talked about lactation.
But now,
I can't make
Rook
that
is going to be
promise.
talking about it every single time. If you
Never
want to
mind.
check out Rookery, go to twitch.tv/Rookery and you can talk about lactation.
There was one time a long
Let's
time
go.
ago that somebody on my Discord posted a video about how Argonians may or may not lactate, and we had to have a serious
Well, that's
moderator
a serious
discussion
conversation, though. That's Elder
about
Scrolls
whether-
Online. That's
about whether or not
That's gross.
that was wholly appropriate out of context on the channel. And that was a thing that happened. And now I'm older and wiser. And here's the thing: there's no shame in lactation or breastfeeding.
No.
There's no shame in it. It's a natural thing. But if you come to my channel, there's no reason. We don't have to talk about it. We don't
Rook's
have to
not
talk
okay
about
talking
it.
about that. Like apparently, you've inserted a boundary there.
No, it's just because we all know the internet gets weird a lot of times. They get
Oh, it
weird.
does? No.
Okay, but what was the conclusion?
You can find me on twitch.tv,
Thank you.
Rookery. ROOKURI. You can also find me on YouTube, Rookery, exact same. Again, no lactation content. And you can find me on Twitter at Rookery_. The conclusion at the time was that we felt a little weird about it because the person seemed like very interested in Argonian boobies.
Can you milk an alligator?
So,
Are you
next,
brave enough?
Fornax, what do you do and where do you do it? And that's not an opportunity to tell us about certain things.
No more lactation talk. Okay, fine. God, you're so boring.
I know. I am
Such a strict
described
dad.
pretty much as
Yeah.
boring most of the time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Stonehenge.
Okay. Fine. So I'm Phonax. I make entirely different content on YouTube. You wouldn't know that I was the same human being.
No, you wouldn't. This
Genuinely.
is your outlet. This is everyone's outlet. My channel. It's like my channel is just the place where
This is
everyone's
where
like,
we break loose.
I can't truly be my disgusting self on my channel, so I'm just gonna come to
Only
Jebro's
we
instead.
can.
But I'll welcome it. I welcome it. Keep showing your true selves.
Yeah, I
You'll
make
find out.
Guild Wars 2 content. No nipples, no lactation, no OnlyFans, just
There's less
YouTube Guild
people
Wars 2
now.
content.
You just lost
Yeah.
subscribers
That's it.
because there was a promise of
Fine.
not that.
No nipples, sorry. There you go.
That's what you're changing it to. It's no, you're the Crichton Herald, no nipples.
Guild, no nipples. No. Yeah,
Thank you
that's
very much
correct.
for being here. You're
No
fired.
problem.
Kroof, tell us what you do. What you do?
Hi, I'm the lactation pump you find at the bottom of your bag and wonder, do I still really need this? Kroof, and welcome to the show where we talk about whatever we want, because it's our show and not yours. But if you want to find me specifically, I'm over at YouTube at Kroof or on Twitch at Kroof. And thank you so very much for having me. I had a great time.
You do always say thank you for having me, and then I'm like just tempted to say I'm not glad you're here, but like I am secretly under everything. Boots.
I can't
I've known
follow
you
that.
too
I'm
long
sorry. You're gonna have to move on.
But I need you to go.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm just absolutely not gonna do that. No.
Boots.
No.
Wait, what?
Please.
No. No.
Please, Boots, please.
But I will bring
Shake
up.
it, baby. Shake it.
I know there's cows in Tyria. Do people milk the centaurs?
You can't milk a horse.
Can't you?
Uh,
I mean, Animal Farm would disagree, but no.
not that version. Just the other version.
No, actually, okay, I have decided that purely on the basis of lactation, yes, centaurs lactate. But can you milk them like a cow?
Well,
no.
I didn't ask like a cow.
No, he's talking about naughty things.
No, not that kind. Oh, Jebro.
That's why we're ending it, because it's getting too filthy for me. I'm an innocent
Filthy.
innocent
It was
flame.
filthy in it.
It was filthy in it, bruv.
I'm sorry, chat does also say fermented horse milk is a real thing, and it is a real thing. We got off the clip. Was there
How
a clip
many
you wanted to be
nipples
done
do
with?
horses have? Does anyone
7.
in chat know?
7.
What?
It's odd, yes. That's a true
Really?
fact. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
How many
didn't look that
nipples?
Wait, why? Okay, I have a very important question. I'm gonna look this up.
2. Horses have 2.
Okay, thank goodness, because I was really
No.
worried about Jebro coming
They
up with that
have
fact
7.
so quickly.
Oh, you didn't believe
you.
me? Wow.
I
That's
believed
so
you.
rude. Oh, well, you did. Okay, good. Thank you for your trust. I was lying,
Great.
though.
This has been maybe the most
Batman.
lactation specific outro we have ever done.
Mm.
I think it is my fault. Underneath
It is.
everything, I do set a premise. And so they just follow in my steps of it. Twitch.tv. Well, I'll do Boots' one. Go and follow
Please.
Boots' YouTube channel, World of Enders. Make sure you go and check out all of the adventures. The new video is coming out. It's called Adventure Quest, I think you said, or the Quest Adventure. One of those two things. Go and watch it because it's going to be very funny, probably. You should put the outtakes in as well. Also,
I mean,
on
I
Twitter.
actually go over this in the first episode, and I very clearly state I will not be doing the updates.
Oh, I didn't watch it. I didn't know you had an episode.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, fine.
Okay.
That's the end.
Too much footage. Too much footage to edit into outtakes.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Editing can be a pain in the ass. Okay, so apparently Spotify's broken. Oh no, it's not. No, it's not. There we go. Okay, I've been Twitch. I am the entirety of Twitch in one person, which makes sense. Twitch.tv/JebroUnity. If you want to come and watch the podcast and witness whatever the hell we're going to talk about next week. I mean, I don't even know. There's a base layer of Guild Wars 2, which qualifies
the
us
first
to be a
episode.
Guild Wars 2 podcast, and then there's everything else. So if you want to come and check out the podcast at 1 p.m. Pacific-ish on a Friday, you're very welcome to. Also, youtube.com/JebroUnity as well. You can check out all the past episodes. The last episode is like a 1,500 views. It's only been out for a week. So that's a big hot one right now. And I'm sure this will be a flaming hot one as well. So make sure you come and check it out. It's also on
Just like Cheetos.
anchor.fm, exactly like Cheetos. /JebroUnity as well. You can listen to audio, but if you search for us on Spotify, you can also watch the video live there as well. They do have video available on there for their audio podcasting, which is great. Also, we're on Google, iTunes, all the things. Next week, why did that just stop? There's no reason why you would stop there, music. If you want to come join us
You're
next
going to be
week.
doing the story.
Yeah, I think so. I would like to. We can just play through like 2 hours worth and just see where we get to and have some chats about it. And
I think everybody
I'm gonna play it before,
who's
though.
listening to this now should not play until Friday, and we could all go through it together.
You can no. I'm gonna play it separately. Because I'm gonna play it on Tuesday and stream. Because there is one more thing. Twitch drops are back, and that's a good thing. And you can get a visor from the world of Canva. So it's gonna be cool.
You said advisor?
You can get a visor, yes. It's a visor thing. Apparently.
Please, sir, I need some more. Because I went over to America to play with all you barstools, I can't get back on my own fucking server now. And I
Why not?
can't do my World v
Oh, is it
World.
full?
It's full.
Oh.
So join us
Alright,
next
alright.
week.
Our evil plan to get Fornax on NA has worked. Well done, everybody.
Yeah,
Well done, everybody.
me hearties. No, that's what you want to get them to go over to get ally, alliances. Now it really needs to just sort it out for Fornax. Thank you so much, and goodbye. We will see you next time on the Lightbringers podcast. God knows what we'll talk about next time. See you soon.
Yep.
Meow, meow, meow.